You know how some conflicts can feel, well, abstract? Fought somewhere far away over military targets you only see on the news. But what happens when that all changes? When the front line isn't in some distant field, but right in the middle of a major city? That's what we're diving into today. A really unsettling turn in the Iran-Israel conflict. The crisis isn't distant anymore. It's literally landing in people's neighborhoods. And we're going to break down exactly what that means.
And that's really the big question here, isn't it? It's what people all across central Israel are grappling with right now. This is a shift that takes a huge geopolitical struggle and makes it immediate, personal, something that's happening right outside your own window. So let's take a look at what that actually feels like on the ground.
So let's get right into it. We're starting in the really densely populated areas around Tel Aviv. Recent events here have completely shattered any idea that people were insulated from the broader conflict. The reality of war just crashed right into civilian life. And two places, Ramat Gan and Rosh HaAyin, became the flashpoints for this new, very tangible reality. Okay, so here's what happened. These are the two incidents that really brought this whole thing home. In Ramat Gan, which is just east of Tel Aviv, a residential building took some serious structural damage. Then, almost at the same time in Rosh HaAyin, a high-voltage power line got hit, knocking out electricity. Now, this was no coincidence. It was a clear, powerful message. No part of civilian life, not your home, not the power that runs it, is off limits anymore. But you know, it's not just about the busted buildings or the downed power lines. The real impact, the one that truly matters, is how this just completely upends people's lives. For thousands, a totally normal day was flipped into a state of emergency in an instant. And this is where you start to see the psychological toll become just as devastating as any physical destruction. For people living through this, it plays out in a cycle that has become just horribly familiar. First, you get that jarring sound of a warning siren. Then comes that heart-pounding uncertainty as everyone scrambles for shelter. You hear the sounds overhead, and you have no idea what they are or where they're going. And then, finally, there's that anxious wait for news, to find out what got hit, how bad it is, and maybe the worst part, if another wave is on its way. This awful rhythm is now a part of daily life. In this quote, it just hits the nail on the head. A distant conflict, you can almost treat it like an idea, an abstraction. But when it means shattered glass on your street or your neighborhood suddenly goes dark, well, the crisis isn't a news headline anymore. It becomes immediate, it's personal, and it is right there in front of you, totally visible. You just can't ignore it. So you have to understand, this isn't just about those few moments of sheer panic. It's about a much bigger shift in society. People are having to adapt to a whole new daily rhythm, one where a sense of risk is just always there, lingering in the background. And part of what's making that risk feel so much higher is the kind of weaponry that's reportedly being used. Yeah, so reports have been raising alarms about something called cluster-style payloads. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, think of it like this. Instead of one single projectile hitting one predictable spot, these things can scatter smaller explosives over a much, much wider area. And all of a sudden, the danger zone isn't just a single point. It could be on your roof, in the park down the street, or on the sidewalk your kids use. This just ramps up public anxiety and makes the job for emergency responders a whole lot more complicated. And that hit on the power line in Rosh HaAyin, that was way more than just a technical problem. Attacking a city's power grid is like going after its central nervous system. It messes with everything: hospitals, transportation, communication. So a simple power outage becomes this powerful symbol of vulnerability. It's a deliberate attack on public confidence, designed to make people feel unsafe. Okay, so let's pull back for a second and look at the bigger picture here. These attacks are not random acts. They're part of a huge strategic conversation that's happening through actions, not words. The physical damage, honestly, that's just one part of the story. The other, and arguably more important part, is about the messages that Iran and Israel are sending to each other. At the end of the day, this is a war of messages. On Iran's side, every single projectile that manages to get through Israel's pretty advanced air defenses is a signal. It's them saying, we can reach you, we won't give up, and we can keep applying this pressure. Now, on the other side, Israel's message is all about resilience. By telling its own public to get ready for a long campaign, the leadership is basically saying, we will not be scared off. They're managing expectations for a long, drawn-out crisis, not some short-term emergency. And that really is the heart of it all. When you target a home or a power line, you're aiming for something much bigger than just steel and concrete. The real target is the public's sense of security, their feeling of normalcy.
If you can erode that confidence, you're hitting a key objective in this kind of modern conflict.
So, where does this all lead? What comes next? Well, the main takeaway seems to be that the region is probably entering a much longer, more uncertain phase of instability. The conflict is no longer neatly contained on some remote battlefield. It is now being felt directly by people in cities, and that just changes the entire calculation for everyone involved. And that leaves us with this final, really heavy question to think about. This new normal, with its sirens and shelters and constant uncertainty, is starting to just become part of everyday life. But when a state of crisis becomes routine, what's the real long-term cost to a society, to its well-being, its spirit, and its basic sense of home?